In 2020, according to rumor and internet legend, a group of baby witches hexed the moon. What began as a rumor very quickly got mainstream traction, a Hulu mention, and was the biggest drama on Witchtokker to date. And I was there. Here's what happened. A few things before we get started. In this video essay, I'm going to be providing a lot of screenshots, and I have chosen to blur out the names of the people involved in this. That is for their safety and their privacy. I really don't feel the need to put people who wrote these posts 4 years ago, put their usernames out here when I'm just kind of referencing them. And we have a few things to keep in mind, some terms to familiarize yourself with. If you're new here or you're just watching this video because of the title, hi, my name is Frankie. I am also known as Chaotic Witch Aunt. I make YouTube content about Italian folk practices and folk magic. I am on Instagram, I run a shop, and from 2020 to 2022, I was a very active Witchtokker. So if you're finding me again, hi! It's been a while, I've been doing a lot. If this is your first time here, also hello. Or if you're a repeat viewer, hello, good to see you. I hope you have a great day. I am doing this because my friend who runs Jewwitches recommended it to me, and I originally was like, I'm not gonna do that. And then I realized that a lot of people want me to do it. We're gonna get started. Some terms to familiarize yourself with before we get into this. Hex, an intentional spell to cause harm to someone or something. The Fae, fair folk, fairies found in many cultures, but most often found and referred to as the Celtic fair folk. The moon, big ball in the sky, beautiful gal. All right, she's a main player in this. Baby witch, that is a term for a beginner witch or an amateur witch. I personally will not be using that term. I'll be saying beginner unless I'm quoting something, because I am opposed to the term baby witch. I feel like it's infantilizing. Other things to keep in mind: Artemis, Greek goddess, associated with the moon, hunting, etc. Apollo, her brother, god of the sun. A few things to keep in mind. If you're here and you're not a witch, you just have to accept for the sake of this video that witchcraft is real. You will not understand any aspect of this. Actually, you may understand parts of it, but you'll have a better and more fun experience if you just come into this like, witchcraft is real. Even if you don't think it's real, you just need to understand the entirety to really entrench yourself in this, except it's real. The moon is a goddess, the sun is a god, witchcraft is real, hexes are real, spells are real, and that will kind of put you in the mindset of, I think, me and a lot of people were in 2020. Another thing to understand is the culture on TikTok, which we'll learn more about that through this video. But it was primarily centering at this time on generating a response as quickly as possible. Like it was just the culture on TikTok was like quick things. And that is how the app is still today. It is quick, it doesn't prioritize education, all this stuff. It was a time when there was a lot of information circulating. 2020, 2021, Witchtokker was at its height. It was like, there were hundreds of us on there, okay? So many people. All of those creators were putting out information, and in that, attracting kind of a newer group of people discovering witchcraft who had maybe just found it, like got their start there. So the kind of culture was also like, we didn't really have a way to cross-reference or vet anyone at this point. You kind of just had to wait and see if the person was a good person or not. There are, of course, always like some red flags with certain creators or information. It really was a period where, like, I truly believe a lot of people were in, like, a lot of practitioners like myself were in public for the first time. We were operating in a social media space for the first time publicly. We were really kind of trying to create a community that was hospitable to younger, newer practitioners with no fucking idea how to do it. Keep that in mind, okay? When none of us knew what we were doing. All right, and I speak for myself, and there were, of course, elder and older practitioners on the app at that time. I do genuinely feel like they were trying so hard to help, but I think a lot of the time, and very understandably, they were frustrated with the misinformation that was saying, and the videos they made, I think, came across a little bit more angry, and that's okay. Here's the thing though, I get it. I get it, okay? I get it. And that's just, I think, why a lot of people weren't paying attention. During this period, too, Witchtokker was trending. It was on TikTok's like dashboard. Everything that was referenced in the community was getting blasted outside the community. That is primarily how everything spread during this period, because Witchtokker was trending. It was like a hot hashtag to follow. Thus, a lot of people outside the community that probably would not have had any understanding of witchcraft or ever be exposed to it at all were seeing it and finding it and like being exposed to it, which helped the community grow in a lot of ways, but also contributed to a lot of it that got outside the community that did not need to. Things that probably could have just been handled like internally, external blasting. And that is where we begin our story. Grab your cup of tea, get a snack. Popcorn is recommended. Let's drop the fuck in. All right, when did this happen? In July of 2020, so basically 6 months into the pandemic, no one could go outside. We were all on our phones all the time. TikTok videos began circulating surrounding a discussion of baby witches hexing the moon, as well as conversations of how the Fae, referring to the Celtic fair folk, may be next. So the immediate response from I think a lot of people was, what the fuck? You cannot do that. And I think that response fueled a lot of what came next. Now we're going to break down kind of different thought processes around this, but I really do believe that the initial response was fueled by a couple things. One, a general sense of anxiety and fear caused by the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020 and a lot of unprecedented things happening. Two, a lot of practitioners who, like I said, kind of are in social media and in a social media witchcraft space for the first time, not knowing what to do or how to deal with this information. One, myself included in that. I had no idea how to fucking operate as a creator. I had no idea what was an appropriate video to post versus an inappropriate video to post, and I had no idea that if I posted a video talking about how these people fucked up, that it would spiral and get a lot of traction. So this was just something where I think a lot of people were new to TikTok. We didn't have any idea how the fucking app really operated. We didn't understand it. And at the same time, we were, I think for a lot of us, new to a witchcraft community online, did not understand fear-mongering or how that worked, okay? Laying that flat right there, myself included. I am holding myself responsible in this, because if you recognize me from that, you know why. And I think there was a lot of feelings of anger and not really being able to do anything about the current state of the world that were immediately fueled towards this situation of like, okay, you pissed off the moon, the deities are angry, all of that anger went towards this. That is how it began. If you're wondering why I'm a pro at cross-referencing now, this is it. This entire situation is why I take my research, my cross-referencing so fucking seriously. So I saw videos around it, not even like checking to see the legitimacy of the claim. I just saw the videos and I made, I fucking hate that I did this, a dramatic ass video that is now deleted about how deities are pissed and how I was not going to help whoever the fuck did this. Because of course, like, why would I, like, of course I did, right? And it blew up. When I blow up, I mean, like, not 1 million views. I think it probably got to 100,000 before I took it down in the span of several hours. I will say, I'm sure that there were other content creators making things, but I do know that a decent amount of people probably heard about this through me. And I hold myself accountable for that, okay? I think about it every fucking day. I think about it every day. So, very quickly, and when I mean very quickly, I mean TikTok like hours. This shit got huge. We had people on Witchtokker freaking out. We had people outside of Witchtokker seeing this and being like, what the fuck does this mean? Is the moon okay? Because of course. I mean, I think honestly, I still stand by the response of like, I get it, of being like, someone hexed the moon. Is the moon okay? You know, like it's giving like, I'm gonna kill the moon from Avatar: The Last Airbender. And so then within this kind of 6-hour period, because it really was like maybe a 6 to 12 hour period, people started to dig to try and see who hexed the moon. The mistake that occurred here with a lot of people, myself included, is that we made a video about it before looking it up. Once again, this is why I am so good at research now, all right? There was not a lot of information when we were looking at who. We were just finding other videos that we had found out through it, and people were saying, you know, oh, it started on Reddit, oh, it was on Witchtokker, oh, it was here. There was no conclusive one way to a solution. Important things to note. While Witchtokker was getting told that this was Reddit, like it started on Reddit and the baby witches were on Reddit, Reddit was being told that it started on Witchtokker. So now we see at this point, when we were all kind of talking, because I remember there were conversations happening and like creators getting together and being like, what the fuck is going on? Why is this like, what is happening? While that was happening, everyone was looking at Witchtokker like, fuck, Witchtokker baby witches did this. Meanwhile, Witchtokker is in here like, no, wait. We thought it was on Reddit, and Reddit was like, no, it was you. So, this is just such a situation. Okay, cue a decent chunk of us slowly realizing there is no source for this. We don't know where this came from. This is probably, may not even be happening. And here I found now a few comments and a few posts that were shared in that situation. On Reddit, there was a singular person referencing that, quote, apparently just one witch from Witchtokker knows their names. One of them reached her on DMs. She said that the Hexers, let's call them that, is a small coven of 4 baby witches that are just trying to prove a point. The Witchtokker doesn't want to give their names, so they won't receive any attacks, magical or online. The moon wasn't really affected by the hex, obviously, but it did anger some deities, so they will get what they deserve, I guess. And this entire sentence starts with, it's the same 4 that tried to hex the Fae. Okay, there's a lot to unpack here. So this is one of the things I found referencing the people who did it. Apparently just one witch from Witchtokker. No one knows who this witch is. Nobody knows who this is. To this day, I still have no fucking clue if this actually happened. All right, so this was the first. The second was a comment left on a video saying they, assuming them and a group, didn't hex the moon, but was just talking to the moon. And there's kind of a screenshot, that's me when I was young, but I'll send a screenshot to my editor, where it really is just, no, we haven't hexed, we spoke to the moon with intent, and people think we hexed it. What will occur soon will show that we have not hexed. That's from like a nameless, faceless account on someone's page. Really no clue if that person actually did it, okay? Number 3, Rodney Stubbs. We will get to that later, okay? Remember that name. So all of these kind of small realizations that, wait, we really don't have a lot of information or any idea where this came from, and this was kind of paired with this very quick spiraling. Like, this happened maybe on the 18th or the 19th of July, and on the 20th, it was in the news. Like, you know, like it was a couple of days before this information was blasted everywhere. Through this, there was a lot of pushback and backlash to the concept. More people were finding out about it, more opinions were weighing in, and then we get to the several schools of thought present in the Witchtokker 2020 moon hexing. 1, the moon deities are pissed, Artemis and Apollo are hurt, and general, like, what I would associate now with fear-mongering surrounding the possibility that Apollo, the god of the plague, was going to make things worse during the pandemic, right? A lot of people saying Apollo is the god of the plague. Why would you do this during a pandemic? He's going to make everything worse. He's going to, like, kill people. Okay. This was primarily at the beginning. There was also the kind of general consensus that retribution will happen, that deities were pissed. There was a little bit of a kind of, the moon is dying. That was circulating too. I do not have any sources for that. That is just something that was circulating. Like, the moon is dying, the moon is hurt, Apollo and Artemis are hurt, etc. So that's the first school of thought. And that kind of comes from that Reddit section where, like, deities are pissed. There was less about, like, the moon being hurt, and there was more of this on Twitter. Once again, I am not sharing names for the sake of, like, these people, you know? So I'm going to pop up this thread really quick and read out some of the stuff that was said. In case you don't know, Artemis and Apollo are twins. Artemis is the goddess of the moon. Apollo is the god of the sun. As siblings, they are very intertwined, and as his sister has been hexed, he's pissed, all caps. Apollo will take action for his sister, even though she is entirely capable of taking action for herself. But Apollo, he is the god of health and medicine. They hexed his sister in the middle of an increasingly dangerous pandemic. What will happen to the hexers? If the gods are merciful, their hex will be sent back to them and they will be hexed by the gods. Yeah, that's mercy. If there's no mercy, a curse, lifelong at least, probably on their bloodline. School of Thought 1. Now I will say this was not just coming from one person. There are collections of people saying the same things. This was the first kind of thing that was being circulated. The second thing that was being circulated was along the lines of, like, the deities of the celestial bodies will take care of them. The moon is fine. Everything will be fine. You will be fine. But also, like, kind of expect a negative impact if there is going to be any. This was also kind of like, they may be fine, they may also have a bloodline curse. So these first two are kind of intertwined. One is that, like, the moon is hurt, the gods are pissed, and they are going to fuck this person up. The other one also kind of like, they're gonna fuck this person up, but you don't have to worry about the moon being hurt. The gods are just pissed. And then the third one was kind of like, the moon is fine, everything is fine. They're gonna deal with this as they see fit. This was, like, my take to some extent, and after all of that earlier stuff, and also a few other people's take, was like, moon is okay. You are fine. They will not take this out on the world, because it's like, they don't care. The fourth one was the more common sentiment among more experienced practitioners who were asked to weigh in, which was, this is literally impossible or does not work. And if it does work, you know, like, it's not going to be good for you, but, like, you're probably, like, why would this work? Okay. Fifth sentiment, this is impossible because witchcraft doesn't exist. This existed outside the community, right? This controversy and drama caused a Twitter thread to occur, which is referenced in every single news article, breaking down the situation. I did read from this one earlier. The Twitter thread very quickly spread past the situation of the confines of TikTok onto Twitter. So now we're at a situation where there's a viral Twitter thread, Witchtokker creators getting angry, and then people outside of TikTok being like, what the f is going on? And then people in the witchcraft community outside of TikTok being like, this is not a thing, you know? During this period, multiple news outlets took to the story, furthering the entire situation, and from there spreading it to the mainstream. In this, many witches with lots more experience off of TikTok, such as Gabrielle Herstick, Brie Luna, Christine O'Day, were asked to weigh in on what was happening and give their opinions. Many were like number 4, that kind of school of thought of this is not going to work. A lot of the backlash and media attention came from the first and second schools of thought, because those individuals were making videos and those videos were being seen by individuals outside the community who aren't witches, who don't believe in it, leading to more things, okay? Memes. This was like the biggest meme. I will share some of my favorite. Twitter memes were insane. Me Googling who are the Fae and why would TikTok witches hex the moon at 10:38 p.m. on July 19th, 2020. The witches trying to hex the moon reminds me of when a nun got hospitalized by attempting spiritual warfare on David Lynch. Baby witches hex the moon and the Fae. I don't even consider myself a witch. I'm just spiritual, but what the were you thinking? Why? No, the Fae are pissed. The moon deities is pissed. You're gonna have generational blood curses for trying to hex the Fae. Generational blood curses comes up a lot, okay, while we're talking about this. Generational blood curses, all right? This one's funny. I didn't hex the moon. I didn't come on the moon. I didn't put my anywhere near the moon. I've never done anything weird with the moon. I promised myself I wasn't going to make apology videos after last year's thing, so I'm trying to be short and honest with this as possible. My timeline is surprisingly evenly divided into the you can't hex the moon because witchcraft is fake, and you can't hex the moon because the moon is too powerful camps right now. LMAO, no, witches did not hex the moon. Why? Because I have stolen the moon. If you ever want to see your precious moon again, wire me $300,000. Do not attempt to hex me. I will see you coming a mile away. Ocean's movies, like Ocean's 14 kind of joke. What if we kissed while hexing the moon? Just kidding, aha. Unless. So that, you know, there. A lot of people responding to the responses and backlash and giving their opinions, such as earlier mentions, but also conversations on Quora, Reddit, Twitter, and more. An example of this, referring to, thirdly, this kind of Quora situation. The backlash has been incredibly cringy. There are rumors going around that the same group is now attempting to hex the sun, which makes them only seem more delusional. There are rumors going around that one of the original group died since the hex, which, being probably false or completely unrelated, only fuels the paranoia and viral quality of this whole thing. And lastly, we have people claiming to have channeled Artemis and Apollo, saying that great vengeance will be wrought upon us for having the hubris to attempt said hex. While I will not comment upon anyone's personal gnosis of the divine, I will say that, again, this only adds to the viral hysteria and bad press of the whole thing. If anyone was dumb enough to offend a deity that badly, assuming that their actions did in fact offend said deity or spur them to anything more than a good laughing fit, then they have their own personal karma to attend to. There's kind of the take again of like, if they really did this, wouldn't this be handled by the deities in question? Another thing from kind of Dazed Digital, the moon is incredibly important to witches. It fuels their spells and power, but hexing is a negative thing. So pissing off the moon is probably not a good idea for witches or anyone, exactly. Fellow witches are pissed at these baby witches for hexing the moon, as they've apparently pissed off Artemis, god of the moon, and her brother, Apollo, god of the sun. Witches are livid because these inexperienced baby witches have got a bit hex happy with the sister of the sun god who controls health and well-being during a global pandemic. God knows why the sun controls the pandemic or the moon was hexed in the first place, but one thing's for sure, the witch community are aggy. Aggy, like angry, aggravated. So lots of conversations happening, kind of stemming from a lot of places. What we're seeing in this situation right now, like when this happened, was a Twitter thread fueling videos, videos fueling other videos, videos fueling Discord, Discord fueling like Reddit. And so we're all bouncing off each other at this point with all of the same information. No new information. Lastly, Rodney Stubbs. Who was Rodney Stubbs? No one knows. We're assuming because it was after kind of all this information took place. It was after it had been posted about. It was after kind of everyone was trying to slow down the virality, realizing how out of hand it had gotten. He appeared insisting that he was the one who hexed the moon. He was not a baby witch, and he acted alone. Who is he? No one fucking knows. It was assumed at this point that this entire thing was a hoax, right? because no source could be found. It was getting insane. There was no new information. No one knew where it come from. It had like started or come from or anything. So it was assumed that Rodney Stubbs at this point was either a troll or someone who recognized he could get attention by insisting he did it. And a lot of individuals on Witchtokker did feed into this, but also there was this other camp of like, do not engage with this person. He's probably lying. He was actually interviewed by Cosmopolitan. And this is a quote from that. A lot of people were saying it couldn't be done, so I tried to do it and it worked. Stubbs told Cosmopolitan via DM. He says he lit black candles, used string and photos to bind the moon, and focused his energy at the moon via a telescope. Then I just recited a spell over and over until the moon got visibly dimmer. The next day, people started going crazy, talking about the moon being hexed, which I hadn't told anyone about yet, so I knew it must have worked. He adds, hexing the moon was like blowing up Alderaan in Star Wars, and like Alderaan, the moon was just a test. Next up, he plans to hex the sun. That was published on July 20th, 2020. Here's the thing. Hypothetically, could this person have hexed the moon? Sure. All of this kind of media attention didn't really like it's he said, she said, through it all the way. Also, if Rodney Stubbs did do it, it doesn't make sense for how the kind of idea around it being for practitioners and also they hexed the Fae came about, right? While all this was happening, comments were also occurring all over. I have no screenshots. This is just from my memory. From anonymous accounts claiming they did it. So Rodney Stubbs was like the biggest one. That was the one that got the most attention, but all over there are people commenting from like new anonymous accounts being like, no, it was me, I hexed the moon. No, it was me, I hexed the moon. So once again, no one person is claiming this. And it was also inferred that these people were trying to troll or take advantage of kind of the like social media storm of it. Later, the moon hexing was mentioned in a Hulu show, solidifying this crazy controversy in public and mainstream history. So after kind of all these articles came out, after everything went down, nothing. No one said anything. Like nothing new happened. No new information was given. We never heard about anything hexing the sun. The pandemic did get worse, but that also was bound to happen because it was the pandemic and the moon did not fall out of the sky. So kind of past this point, everyone's kind of calmed down a little. A lot of this emotional tension that I think was really targeted towards this situation is diffusing. A lot of people are kind of checking sources, being like, okay, wait, did this really happen? And then at this point, you know, the theory that someone started this rumor to make the witchcraft community look bad surfaces. I don't know where that came from. I do not know if it has any legitimacy or not. So, who hexed the moon? Here we hit the most important aspect of this entire situation. Who did it? And the answer is no one knows. If they do know, and someone did do it, they never said anything publicly. They never revealed the person's identity. They never put it out there for anyone to see, and it has been like shut under lock and key, thrown away, never mentioned again. There was never any concrete proof given, and concrete proof being, you know, like we 100% know that this one person did it and with these other people, and this is the person who knows about it. It was he said, she said, Reddit saying it was Witchtokker, Witchtokker saying it was a Reddit, people all over the mainstream media saying it was Witchtokker, and then from there, everyone kind of sitting like, who the fuck did this? All the videos that were referenced as proof were piggybacking off of other videos. The threads were referenced as, you know, like, we're referencing the videos. The Reddit stuff was referencing TikTok videos, and then TikTok was referencing Reddit. So what we see here is like a ping pong, like we're all going in circles. The only kind of solid concrete thing was that one video where someone commented saying, hey, we didn't actually hex the moon, we were just speaking it with it to intent, you know? And so could that person be the people involved? Yes. Could it also be Rodney Stubbs? Yes. Could it be any one of the anonymous TikTok people referencing it? Yes. But we really have no idea for certain who it was or if it even happened. Like I said, there was a theory that this was a hoax started to make the community look bad, while others believe that it was just a rumor that got out of hand and, you know, could actually have happened, but we have no idea if anything occurred after that. No one has really found any concrete evidence. If you have, I would love to see it. If there is evidence, it's not really public. It's kind of like random comments. It is random vague Reddit posts. It's Discord stuff referring to videos that were referring to other videos. It's just a giant kind of rumor at this point. No one is entirely sure where it started, and that is how misinformation and rumors happen. Is the moon okay? Yes. 4 years and still going strong. You know, she's still in the sky. We're still hanging there. Was the moon hurt? Great question. There will always be conversations surrounding whether or not a hex can hurt a celestial being, or if it will piss off the celestial being based off differing beliefs, traditions, unverified personal gnosis practice, okay? Some people may believe that, you know, the celestial body is fine, it's just a waste of energy, but you know, you may face a little kickback from that deity, right? Some believe that you're gonna have a generational or bloodline curse. Some believe that, you know, that deity is going to hex you. Some believe that no one gives a shit and they're gonna be fine and nothing happened, you know? But what we can probably take from this and from the information given by experienced practitioners during this crisis is that no, the moon probably wasn't hurt. Whether or not the famed and legendary moon hexers exist, if they suffered at the hands of the moon or sun's wrath, or if they have a curse on their bloodline is up to debate to this day. We don't know. No one ever kind of came forward. And even if they did, I don't know if anyone would have believed it at that point, because it hit the point where we're like, this must have been a hoax. This must have been fake. So once it hit that point, I think there was no comment, there was no person coming forward that could have convinced people that this actually happened. And I think that in a lot of ways was people being like, this is the craziest shit I've ever heard and I refuse to partake in it any longer. Yeah, so how did this affect the community afterwards? Because Witchtokker, I think, still has a few practitioners on it to this day. Most of the community kind of dispersed and is in different places. The community continued to remain active for quite a while, and I wholeheartedly believe that it affected the community in many ways. Not just Witchtokker, but like the general witchcraft community. Because what happened during this is there was a lot of bad press. These articles were spreading it everywhere. And if you have no idea what witchcraft is and you're looking at this and you're like, what the f is going on? Your impression of the community and Witchtokker is going to be, this is a fucking joke. This made people outside the community less likely to take TikTok and Witchtokker seriously due to the misinformation spread and the reaction, which is understandable and valid. I get that. It made people inside the Witchtokker community more likely to cross-reference research and hold each other accountable for how information spreads, especially misinformation. I really do think that this situation was a wake-up call for a lot of people who were just starting on TikTok to recognize how TikTok spreads information and what it prioritizes when it spreads that information. I think it also created a space of reflection for a lot of us for how we respond to things that feel and look like rage-baiting rumors, especially if we can't find any information on it past a video. Are we going to feed into them or are we going to ignore them? Do we trust that when someone does something that sounds and is stupid, that will backfire on them and the universe will take care of it? If not, and we feel like we have to call it out, do we need to do it on a public platform that may lead to attention outside the community and mainstream media attention, or can we hold each other accountable within the community? It also really brought attention to the way TikTok as an app and communities within TikTok function. The app to this day, to my knowledge, continues to prioritize drama and controversy and tends to push informative videos or videos that are less dramatic down on the timeline, making them less likely to be seen by the algorithm. I also believe that it's a great example of social media's capability to spread misinformation faster than people can recognize it as misinformation, and faster than we can actually address them. This entire situation probably occurred within a week max. I remember the video that I posted gaining a lot of traction within 6 to 12 hours, and then I took it down, and within that 6 to 12 hours, articles were already being written. It continues to live on as a reference point and a point of confusion in our community, with a lot of people knowing it happened, but not even knowing what the fuck occurred. Yeah, that's kind of the general consensus for me too. Here's some things to keep in mind and what we can kind of take from this. Like I said, this was mentioned in a Hulu thing. The people who created articles on it go from Teen Vogue to NPR to The Cut to Rolling Stone to Cosmopolitan. This was huge. This was probably one of the most mainstream things that has escaped from Witchtokker, actually probably the most mainstream thing that has escaped from Witchtokker and kind of the witchcraft community and entered those circles. I really do think this is an example of what happens when we don't fact check things, because this at the end was could have been someone doing this, but no one to my knowledge and no one that I know knew who this one creator was who knew the 4 people who did it. Could it have been Rodney Stubbs? Sure, but at that point, no one was really believing anything that was happening. And it got to a certain point that we were all so fucking tired that we just started making jokes about it. And it's still referenced today. There's still people on Threads, on X, aka Twitter, on all these kind of platforms that talk about the 2020 moon hexing, but no one really knows what happened. Here's the thing. No one who was there knows what happened either. We don't know if it was real. We don't know if it was a hoax. I think the most popular theory remains that someone on Reddit began this to discredit the Witchtokker community, which I think is a relatively valid approach considering the way that it gained virality, considering the kind of way Witchtokker was at the time, considering the way it spread and all the bad press and mainstream media attention. But I also disagree with that theory to an extent, because I feel like there is no way you could have predicted to get it as big as it did. And maybe, you know, you get a few people being like, oh, this is fucking insane, witches are crazy. But for the most part, this was the perfect storm. We have a group of people, myself included, who have never operated in a social media witchcraft circle before, who are unfamiliar with social media, who are new to TikTok, don't really know how it works, and don't really know how to conduct themselves in community setting quite yet. We also have an app that prioritizes misinformation. It prioritizes drama, controversy, and at the time when these things were occurring, Witchtokker was trending. It was very big. It was getting a lot of views. Through all this, we have the TikTok culture, which really was get it out as fast as you can, make videos as fast as you can, respond to things as fast as you can, leading to a culture where cross-referencing and research also wasn't happening. And I think on top of that, being about 6 months into the pandemic, there was a level to this where everyone was really fucking stressed and strung out and scared. On top of this, there was a lot of emotions because we were in an unprecedented event, you know, election year, pandemic. And within all of this, I think this was the perfect outlet for people to let their anger out. You know, there was this kind of crazy, incredulous thing that you were thinking about it, and it just could have, it was the concept of why the fuck would you even hex the moon? What is the purpose? You know, why would you do this? And it was like the perfect rage bait for everyone to lose their fucking minds. In this, we have what happened. And to this day, I think there is no one way to approach or think about what happened. You can theorize, you can wonder, you can look at these things and be like, oh, I think this happened, I think this happened. But at the end of the day, there's no way to know for sure. A lot of the videos surrounding this are taken down now. What's left is the news articles, a few Reddit posts, and maybe a few screenshots. that was what happened. I think that in that, you know, a lot of changes have happened in the 4 years since this occurred. I don't know if Witchtokker is still active anymore. If so, I really don't post that much on it. I still have my account, but I really don't post that much on it. And in those kind of years, witchcraft has been less trendy and more kind of niche. The people who maybe started on TikTok, if they're still around, are really kind of making their way elsewhere. Or no longer around and posting witchcraft content. So yeah, that was the 2020 Witchtokker moon hexing, 2020 baby witches hexing the moon, 2020 moon hexing hoax, whatever way you think about it. It was something that definitely will continue to live on in the witchcraft community's memory and in pop culture for many, many years to come. Not for the fact that it happened and was crazy, but for the backlash, the response, the way it was picked up by media, and yeah, like I said, really just a perfect storm. Thank you so much for watching. If you are someone who hasn't seen my content before, like I said, post about folk magic. You can subscribe if you like, or like this video. Helps me either way. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Remember to comment, like, subscribe, turn the bell on, but absolutely no pressure, and have a good rest of your day. Don't try to hex the moon. We don't need a repeat of 2020. Siate benedetti.